All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. It's so great to see you all in person again after last month. For the purposes of the recording, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Fairfield Bike and Pedestrian Committee on February 24th, 2022, starting at 6:01 p.m. I'm going to do a roll call of committee members for the purposes of the recording. I'll start with myself. I'm Sarah Roy. I'm the chair. I'm present. Scott Craighead.
I'm Scott Craighead, member of the committee as well.
Steve.
Steve Neidick, committee member.
Mike.
Mike Allen.
Nate Rex.
Nate. Okay. So we have 5 committee members present, and we're expecting a 6th. We have a quorum, so we're going to get started. Okay. We're going to start with the minutes. May I please have a motion to approve the January minutes?
Motion to approve.
Mike Allen has given us a motion. Could I please have a second?
Second.
Nate has given us a second. Now, as you might recall from my email, we got some proposed revisions in red by Mary Hogue. So that I just received yesterday, so wasn't able to send them out publicly. I'd like to ask for a second motion to approve the minutes as amended by Mary.
Motion to amend.
Motion to amend, okay. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I'm going to abstain because I was unable to access the link, so I didn't get a chance to see the changes. So
2, 3, 4. If you abstain, we can't vote. Oh, no, you can. We can. Yeah, oh, sorry. Never mind. Okay, so Mike Allen made the motion, and we'll say Steve made the second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion carries to approve the January 2022 meeting minutes as amended. And we will go forward from there. Great. So I want to do some quick introductions. Because I know not everybody has been in the same room before. So I like to do an icebreaker because it's fun. And the icebreaker this week is going to be, since I just traveled and I know a bunch of you traveled, please say your name and your position and what's your favorite seat on an airplane. So I'll go. My name is Sarah Roy. I'm the chair of the committee, and my favorite seat on the airplane is a tie between the window and the aisle. I like to see out, but I also like to not have to crawl over people to use the bathroom. So, Scott, you go ahead.
That's pretty funny. Scott Craighead, committee member, never had that question for an icebreaker. It's very creative. I've just been on 2 planes, actually 4 planes in the past 3 weeks. So let's see. I sat in each of the 3. So center, aisle, and window. I would prefer the aisle, just so people don't have to crawl over other people to get to the bathroom, whatever it might be. But I also say towards the front of the plane and maybe the bulkhead, for that matter. More space.
All right. Mm-hmm. Steve?
Very specific. Steve Neidick. Certainly nobody's going to say center, so it shouldn't be an option. But I'm going to say aisle. Is a little quick funny story. Many years ago, traveling overseas, and the plane landed in person. I think it was during flight, actually, now that I think about it. Person got up and opened the overhead compartment. Her laptop fell and hit me right on the corner of the head, like this, square.
Oh, no.
My head. And it's got, like, stars and everything,
Oh, my gosh.
Kind of ticked me off. But certainly aisle.
You still take the aisle after that?
Yes.
Yep. Ouch.
Yep.
Glutton for punishment.
Slow learner. Quick getaway.
Thank you. All right, Mike?
I'm Mike Allen, 1A, obviously, by the window.
1A by the window? Nate?
I'll second that.
yeah, given a choice, 1A. Anything in first class is lovely, but I'm a window guy.
Window guy?
And I'll just hold it through the entirety of the flight, and I can go 6 hours coast to coast and just.
Good for you.
So.
Good for you.
I'm not healthy, but I can do it.
Santina.
I'm Santina Taranto. I am the Assistant Director of Health for the Fairfield Health Department. And I would say probably window.
Window?
Yeah, I like to control the screen.
Nice.
I can look out. If it's night, I can close.
I get it. And how's the baby?
Good. Oh, yeah, thank you for the card. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Baby is good.
What's her name?
Her name is Grace.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, for those of you who missed, I just had my 3rd baby.
Yes, she did. It's in November, right?
Maternity. Yeah.
Yes.
In November.
You're on a roll.
That's it.
All right.
Final word.
Yes.
Mark, would you mind doing our icebreaker?
Sure. Mark Barnhart, Director of Junior Economic Development. Yeah, it'd be great to be near the front of the plane so I can get out. Aisle, probably more so than window. Depends where my kids are sitting.
There you
Definitely
go.
not the center position if I can avoid it.
That means you want to sit next to your kid, or you want to sit far away from
Well, actually, now that they're much older, it really doesn't matter, but it was, we have 2 and 2, so if we have her on the side, it would be nice to sometimes sit with my wife and put the kids in the back.
Thank you. Bill, we're doing introductions and an icebreaker. What's your, so let us know your name and your title, and what's your favorite seat on an airplane?
My name's Bill Hurley. I'm the engineering manager for the town. As far as plane, I have to go back because I haven't flown in about 5 years, and that was, ride 2 was great. On the way back was a 6-hour delay, so that was kind of rough. I usually prefer the window seat. I always like to drive, you know, or look at scenery, even when I'm driving, so be careful.
Oh, that's not good. I know you're joking.
For this committee, Bill, in case you're going, they're on turn.
That's why I said it. I just couldn't kick out.
Alyssa, are you still there?
Yeah.
Alyssa? Hello?
Oh,
No,
sorry,
Tom
I had to unmute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so we'll do
okay.
Alyssa, and is the other person Tom?
Yeah.
Tom, awesome, Tom, thank you so much for being on the call. So, Alyssa, we'll do you first for introductions to your name and what's your favorite seat on the airplane, and then Tom will do you after Alyssa.
Okay, Alyssa Israel, resident, bike walk advocate, and speaking a little bit later and asking for a little favor from the committee. I'll go with 1A, aisle.
Great, thank you.
Done.
1A. That's why it's always sold out when I go for go on a thank you, Alyssa. And everybody, I want you to know this is the first time Tom's been able to participate in a meeting. He's one of our new committee members, Tom Keene. So, Tom, please take it away.
Oh, okay. Great to be with. Great to be with you. And it's a 2-part answer: short trip, aisle; long trip, window. Much easier to get some shut eye on the window, but aisle is easier for escaping for short trip. So. It depends on how far the flight is.
That's smart. I like that. Well, thank you all for playing my little icebreaker. We have a special guest tonight. I'm very excited. Some folks may know him, some may not. Mark Barnhart, he's the director of the Town of Fairfield Community and Economic Development Office. And I asked Mark to come here. As you know, we've been doing guest speakers, just get to know different departments, because sometimes what we're trying to do in our committee overlaps. As you know, we have regular guests like Santina and Bill, but there are other departments where we overlap in terms of our mission and our activities or objectives. So, Mark, I'd love if you wouldn't mind speaking for a few minutes about, tell us about what you do at the Community and Economic Development Office. And, if there's anything pertinent to biking, walking, road safety that you're working on or have worked on, I'll let you talk.
Sure. Thank you for having me. Again, Mark Barnhart, Director of Community Economic Development. We have a very small office. It's myself and 2 other full-time employees. We both administer federal grants on behalf of the town of Fairfield. That's 1 staff position. That's our Community Development Block Grant program, which I'll talk about in a little bit, as well as provide economic development in the sense that we support our small business base, business community in general, put them in a position hopefully where they can prosper and grow, streamline regulatory impediments, deal with those types of issues, as well as attract new business investment into the town. So that's kind of it in a nutshell in terms of community economic development. I provide staff support to 2 commissions like this. One is the Economic Development Commission. The second is the Affordable Housing Committee. So my office also provides report to the Affordable Housing Committee and developing an affordable housing plan, advising other town boards and commissions on things that we can do to make Fairfield a bit more affordable, or provide for more housing opportunities. So that's it in a nutshell in terms of things that we've worked with in the past. As Bill knows, and part of what we do is provide support, attract grant funding, and provide support to those initiatives, do some community outreach and engagement, particularly with the business community. So we work closely with your group in the past in terms of the Post Road Circle Safety Study, the Grassmere Avenue Pedestrian Improvement Project, the Southport Connectivity Project, as well as the Stratfield Four Corners Streetscape and Pedestrian Enhancements, all of which are on my current to-do list, along with Bill. We're trying to finish those up. They're in various stages. Obviously, Stratfield and Grassmere are both in design. We're looking to actually do construction hopefully later this year. Same with Southport Connectivity. And the Post Road Circle Safety Study is really a feasibility study looking at ways in which we can improve the corridor, make it safer for all users of the area. There are a couple things that I have on my list of things that where we potentially could partner. One is, in addition to the ones I just mentioned, I know that May is National Bike Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. We do have part of what we do on economic development is work to promote tourism and visitation in the town. We have a website, experiencefairfieldct.org, where we try to promote things to do, places to go and see, that type of thing. Within that context, we have some bike and walking tours on the site, and it really provides an opportunity under the context of May being Bike Awareness Month to work with you to promote bike tours, bike safety, both in terms of the work that you're doing as well as through our website. And again, that's something that I thought of. Secondly, and Bill and I just talked, I mentioned before that we do administer federal dollars on behalf of the towns through the Community Development Block Grant Program. Mm-hmm. We are always, each year we solicit potential projects for funding consideration. Certainly, those projects could include sidewalk improvements to make things a little bit safer for pedestrians to get around. It does have to be meet eligibility criteria, but street and sidewalk improvements are eligible. It does need to meet a national objective for federal funds to be dispersed. In this case, we're looking to make investments in census tracts in town where there are concentrations of low, moderate individuals or households. And there are some, particularly on the eastern part of town, but we also, I think it was Mill Plain Road we were looking at. And Round Hill Road, in terms of filling in some of the sidewalk infrastructure there, and that is certainly eligible for funding investment. We do have a public hearing coming up on March 3rd at 6 o'clock. It's a virtual public hearing. I'll be happy to provide you with a link. You don't necessarily need to attend or be present at that meeting in order to provide suggestions. I'm sure that you do routinely provide suggestions or ideas of areas in town where we could use additional sidewalks or to fill in gaps through Bill, and that's fine. You're welcome to drop me a line at any point too if there's areas that you think we should be looking at. And the last thing I wanted to mention is we've been talking to a e-scooter company for several years now. It kind of got sidetracked with the pandemic, but we're looking at whether or not to establish, perhaps as early as this summer, just doing a pilot program, particularly in the downtown area. The three major nodes that we're looking to connect would be the beach, the train station, and possibly Fairfield University, so it's really in that core area. Be a limited service area, limited number of scooters that would be available. We would obviously need to solicit the approval of the governing board to do that, but my thought was to try it out for a season, get some experience, and then develop more of a regulatory scheme around it, as long as there was no cost involved, which there aren't. And we'd have, obviously, adequate protections to indemnify the town and ensure that there's no liability exposure for the town to put this program in place. So, again, that would be something I would love to get your support for, ideally. And my thought was we would maybe present it to the police commission, acting as the local traffic authority, and then to the board of selectmen. And hopefully, if they're in agreement, maybe we roll out a pilot this summer and fall and see how it goes and see what the demand is, and based on that, decide whether or not something we want to do going forward. So those are the three areas I wanted to talk to you about briefly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a lot of great information. I know I have a lot of questions, but I don't want to jump in front of it. Does anyone else have questions before I?
Well, I just wanted to mention one of the areas that Mark had mentioned a couple of years ago was Brentwood and Chambers Street as an example of having sidewalks that those neighborhoods didn't have sidewalks. And so that was important. And I think we did an extension of one, downtown from there, maybe from Mill Plain Road to Ruane Street or something like that. So there's been some opportunities, and we were thinking of Round Hill Road as maybe an example, but obviously through Santina's grant, I know we were looking also the Bird Sanctuary on Uncle Road and then some others. So if there's an area that doesn't qualify, then perhaps go that one with Santina's, and an area that qualifies goes to Mark. But DPW also has a say in the matter, and they may want to, if their paving budget gets slashed for some reason, they may want to, use that for roadways or something like that. But we usually try to balance and make sure we do handicap ramps or some sort of sidewalk as certainly a portion of that money. So,
Scott.
I can ask a question if you don't mind. So,
Mark,
thanks. Nice to meet you. Scott, Craig Head. So the scooter program, could I just ask about that?
Sure.
I just came back from Denver, my son lives, and they have, I guess I'll call it a scooter program.
Yeah.
So the way it works there, we didn't use it, we saw people where you take a credit card and you have to find a scooter on the road, beside the sidewalk, against the building, whatever it might be. Basically, kind of like, Uber, I guess you kind of put it through and you get acceptance, and then you're ready to go, and you can take it from there and drop it off where you want to. Great for mobility. We'll want to get around as opposed to walking quicker and easier than kind of, finding a bike. So maybe just kind of tell us, a little bit more about what the program is that you're thinking about, and maybe even just the intent as to what the value is for doing that.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I had a similar experience. I was in San Diego, noticed the same thing a few years back. It's in a lot of other cities, even in Connecticut, Hartford, Bridgeport have done some smaller programs as well. A little different in the Northeast with it's not something that you can do year-round, so it's more seasonal. The provider that we're looking at specializes in small initiatives. So, they accommodate, less than 50 or less than 100 type scooters. So again, something that would be appropriate for a pilot program. They also, what they do is, while you're free to use it where you need, so you can take it from the train station to a house and leave it there. They have a local fleet manager that rebalances the scooters and brings them back to a central location each night. So that's what appeals to us, so they're not, what I saw in San Diego, they had a whole host of providers out there, and in some places there were a lot of scooters that were just scattered about, and certainly that's a concern of my department, Public Works, other departments as well. So we want to make sure that we have it kind of carefully regulated. But the idea, the intent really is to provide an additional option for people to get around, to connect, the train station to the beach. It's and certainly other areas as well, kind of the last mile type option. And it's also a bit more sustainable in the sense that it's a little bit more green. It's a battery operated, it's rechargeable, so it wouldn't create too much in the way of a carbon footprint. So We thought it was a nice idea and something worthwhile exploring, at least trying on a pilot.
And the money for that would be obtained through a grant, I'm hearing, or?
No, we wouldn't actually pay, they're just looking for basically an opportunity to try it out here, and then obviously if it works, then they would want to enter into a longer-term relationship. It's not exclusive, so other providers we could accommodate, but we don't know what we don't know, so I think it's probably a great idea to just try it out on a limited basis. At some point, there may be, where we expect them to pay us for the opportunity to provide the service. It really just depends on the demand, too.
Yeah, I would think with the schools we have in town, like Sacred Heart and Fairfield Prep and Fairfield U,
yeah,
they would jump all over that.
That's what I'm
but in the summertime, they're not in session.
Right.
So you could argue there's pros and cons to have it either summer or not summer.
Yep.
Right? But, yeah, I think that, to your point about San Diego, and I'll call it kind of scooter debris, same thing in Denver, kind of errant sidewalks, which is a little bit of concern of mine from a visibility standpoint, but I like the concept to have it rounded up at night and sent back to a location.
Right.
That's good.
And when they round them up, do they charge them? Is that
They
part?
charge them and then they put them back in what they call nests, and so there's a couple different locations in town where they have a central gathering spot. You can pick them up. You can search for those locations on an app, so you know where it is. And they can also provide speed retardants in certain areas. So if you don't want to, have people zooming around like in their downtown business district, you can actually retard the speed in that area. And you can also set limits in terms of it won't go beyond a certain geographical area. So if there's an area of town that you don't want scooters to be in, you can basically draw a line and it'll just stop working at some point. So.
I think the speed control thing is really smart. We actually have friends whose nanny they live in Brooklyn, was taking the child around a park in Brooklyn and got hit by a scooter and badly injured, like hospitalized. Yeah, and he took off. So.
They're not, there are issues and risks with all of that.
Yeah. Cool.
So last question on that is, what do you need from this committee, if anything, to support your initiative?
I realize I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I don't have, maybe we would want to come back or have somebody from Bird come back and provide a more in-depth, or at least be able to answer any follow-up questions you have. I'm thinking that in the next couple of months, we'd like to, if we're going to try to do it this summer, we want to present something to the Police Commission and then to the Board of Selectmen. So, within that context, we can also have a further conversation with you. And I realize I'm just hitting you up right now, so you may have other questions after the fact.
Sure.
Come back.
Yeah, keep us posted, because if there's a deadline for like a letter of support or something, we should have all of our ducks in a row and questions answered before that. So, yeah.
Dyed-in-the-wool supporters at this point, because I'm just talking to you for 5 minutes.
Sure, but give us plenty of leeway, and we'll talk about it ahead of time. Mike, you had a question?
My question was so specific, it really is pointless. Is there an age restriction on the programs?
On the scooters?
Yeah.
I do think you have to be of a certain minimum age in order to do that. Yeah. Okay. I don't know exactly how they track that, but
you got a card. You got a card to an 11-year-old.
You do, but
that's how to use it.
We were just in Panama, and we did the scooters, and my son is taller than I am, even though he's only 11. And when I was signing the release or whatever, it said you're supposed to be 14. And I was like, but in Panama it was 14 or over.
And supposedly they require helmets too, but again, there's things, I suppose, if somebody's not wearing it, then you can be kicked off the platform or whatever, but, it's after the fact.
Great. Anybody else? More questions? No? I have a couple of questions.
I'm sure you do.
CDBG, I actually, I know a tiny bit about, in another lifetime I worked with CDBG in New Hampshire. Yeah. But I was wondering, with the census tracts, because I know that's is that information that's online? Like, how could we, because we, and I'll share this with you, we actually have a survey online asking folks, like, where they feel unsafe and uncomfortable crossing streets, walking, riding their bikes, and we're asking for locations. So and we've gotten over 50 responses so far, so if they're identifying some locations, if we could line it up perhaps with some of these eligible.
We've asked engineering has provided us with a map of, I gave them the CDBG eligible census tract.
Okay.
And they have a map so we can match up location with
Okay.
them. We get about $500,000 each year, of which a certain percentage goes to cover the administration of the program, basically fund one staff position that oversees all of it. And then a certain percentage goes to fund public service activities, and then we have community development and affordable housing initiatives. So within that context, we do some investments in public infrastructure, particularly if it helps in terms of accessibility, mobility, and obviously serving folks that are low, moderate income. So streets and sidewalks are definitely an eligible expense.
So perhaps an email or phone conversation about what the responses we've been getting. And how it might align with CDBG. Great.
And Sarah, did you capture like the comments that were on our social media posts?
I did, yes.
Okay.
They were so great. Yeah, thank you so much for that.
Of course.
I did capture those, and I should go back and see. I don't think there's any new ones, but I should make sure. We've gotten some wonderful feedback from people. We're very excited to share where the problems are. My other question is, you mentioned attracting new businesses. I was wondering, what, if anything, you do with small businesses within town. I know in Stratfield Village, at least, and I'm sure it's true of other neighborhoods, there's a lot of home-based businesses, and there seems to be a difficulty in bridging the gap between being a home-based business and going to like a full-fledged commercial space. There's sort of like the bar for entry to do that is very high. And part of it's zoning, and when Emmeline comes next month, we'll talk about that. But I was wondering what, if anything, because, and the reason I bring this up in the context of this committee is because I've been reading a lot about 15-minute neighborhoods where it's one of the newest things for health and economic prosperity and safety is if you can walk or ride your bike to the amenities that you need on, an average day, it reduces carbon emissions, it creates, it's better for your health to be active, and it's better to keep the money locally.
Right.
So I don't know.
It's on all the themes that we like.
Yeah.
It's all about buying and supporting local business. So, there's a couple things. We do spend most of our time working with our existing business base in terms of supporting them. Obviously a lot towards bricks and mortar, the businesses that have a physical establishment here in town, but we definitely can assist those making that transition. We provide site location assistance, so we do publish and make available a list of all available commercial space, either for sale or for lease here in town. We can help them guide that process. We do provide ombudsman services, so we work with Jim and Emmeline, do a little bit more hand-holding with the business applicant in terms of working through some of the regulatory challenges. If there's, an area that they're looking at that requires either some type of zoning application, in some cases a variance request, the zoning board of appeals, we can assist with that. So we're a bit more of an advocate as opposed to sitting in judgment over the application. And then lastly, we do have a microenterprise assistance grant program. So we can provide seed capital to income-eligible micro enterprises, that being a business that employs less than 5 full-time equivalent positions. Either the business owner or the majority of their employees need to be income-eligible in order for us to provide assistance, because the funding does come from community development block grant funds. So the nice thing is we provide basically matching funds up to a $5,000 grant that they can use to defray the cost of tenant fit-up, equipment purchase, and the like to help with that transition.
Thank you.
Those are all 3 things that we do.
Well, that is a lot of really good stuff. And the National Bike Awareness Month in May, we have a few months to start planning for that. I think that's an excellent opportunity to work together. Does anyone else have any questions for Mark? No? All right. Mark, thank you so much.
No, thank you. I know you guys have a full agenda. I appreciate you taking a few minutes to let me learn a little bit more about what we do and how we can potentially work together.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come talk to us. It's really informative.
I'm happy to come back to talk to you a little bit more about Bird if that's something that you want to talk about.
Probably, yeah. Cool.
And we finally it's coming full circle, right? So thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Have a good night.
All right.
Nice days. All right, moving on in our agenda. I really like that. I don't know about anybody else, but I found that very informative. So thank you for.
I could talk to you for hours.
I know, right? I know.
Commercial real estate alone.
Yeah.
A lot of questions.
Totally. Okay, so we're going to move on to Town of Fairfield updates. Evan couldn't be here tonight, but I did talk to him. He typically has a conflict on Thursdays, and so I asked him to provide at least an email update for all of us if there's anything pertinent. He said there's not anything that he wanted to update us about this month except for the bike rodeo, but we'll pause because I'd like you to talk about that during our committee updates.
Yeah, I've got a 7:15 hard stop.
Oh, you have a 7:15 hard stop? Okay, good to know. So perhaps, you know what, we'll jump around and we'll let you talk for a couple minutes about the bike rodeo.
30 seconds to do it now.
Sure, yeah.
We have no date.
You have a date?
We do not have a date.
You don't have a date. He mentioned May.
Yeah, we're looking at May. It's taken a long time to get the contact, and then the contact at the Fairfield Police Department did get back to me for 2 weeks, and when I finally got a hold of him, he said, well, it's not me, it's this other guy. That guy should have done it, it's one of these.
Yeah.
So we're getting closer, I think, and we're
Yeah.
working on a weekend in May, a Saturday in May, except for May 14th, there's a conflict there,
Okay.
and not Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. Great. And did you ever connect with Scott at the library?
No.
No, I sent you and him an email. Did you see that?
If you did, I'm not recalling.
I'll resend. It's okay. It sounds like he didn't reply to it either. So I'll update you in my chair report, but I met with the director of the Fairfield Public Library last month, or at the very beginning of February. And it was a really awesome conversation, and I'll save most of it for my report, but he's very interested in perhaps the library participating in the bike rodeo.
That'd be great.
So I'll forward you that email.
Great.
You can hopefully connect with him, and he'll probably connect you with like a staff person or something.
Do you
But
mind me asking what the bike rodeo is?
Yeah.
yeah,
So this is an event, basically it's, these are grade school kids they're inviting out to come out, make sure that their helmets are fitting. If they don't have a helmet that fits, we give them one, as how the one works in the past.
Mhm.
There's like an obstacle course they will do. There's some basic instructions on how to bicycle safely in your neighborhood. You bicycle with traffic, just assume a car cannot see you. There are 4 or 5 things, it's pretty common.
Yep. Lights,
Lights, on kids' bikes, not so much, but.
backlight, maybe, yeah.
Ideally,
Reflector.
but not necessarily required. And there's some other components of that, and I don't really remember what they were, but we're also working with the Cub Scouts in town. He actually has a ton of ideas what he wants to do, and again, this is open to everybody, but ideally targeted at the grade school kids
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
who are just getting out, who nobody's ever talked to them about bicycle.
Mhm.
Nobody's ever hounded them about helmets. I'm the guy in the neighborhood now that's always pointing and yelling at kids, I'm like, where's your helmet? So, but it's an opportunity to do that.
And where would it be?
The one that was done in 2018 was done at the parking lot of Jennings.
Yep.
We'd like to do it there again. But the initial survey of
Jennings
availability.
Beach, not Jennings School, Jennings Beach.
Jennings Beach.
Okay, yep.
That was not available to us. So, but that was before we started working through the police. So the way this was set up 4 years ago, it was set up through the PA, Police Athletic League, as like an adjunct to the police department. So we're waiting to try to get a hold of them and get them to, I don't think they've thought seriously about this yet.
Yeah.
So we're kind of initiating with that. Say, hey, we got an army of people ready to come, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, that took longer.
And you said May 14th?
That's okay. No, not May 14th.
Not May 14th.
No.
So they're still working.
Sorry, okay.
Well, perhaps,
Yeah.
did we, I'm trying to remember, Santino, and if you don't remember either, it's okay. Did we do bike reflectors as part of your grant?
I was
Yes.
just about to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mike, just make sure to keep me posted.
Sure.
Now that I'm back and hopefully COVID is at a lull, that I'll be here every month. But just in case, just keep me posted, because we do have, the health department has a few hundred bike reflectors and maybe longer reflectors that we can hand out. So just keep me posted.
Very good.
And then lastly, Mike, if you don't mind, how will you promote this?
Again, once we get a date, then I'll start with a press release. Or a flyer, we'll create a flyer that gets disseminated to all the grade schools. And again, with local media, Peach Star posting, posted on our Facebook page, any other social media area where it's relevant, and also just talking this up.
Yeah.
Through the Cub Scout packs. It gives the Cub Scouts an event to participate in. First of all, Cub Scouts, again, I'm also involved with Boy Scouts. Cub Scouts took a real hit. They lost close to 45% of all their Cub Scouts.
Wow.
Dropped out. Well, and this is devastating to Boy Scouts because like 70% of Boy Scouts come from Cub Scouts. So there's a real interest in promoting and giving them more stuff to do, more fun things to do, and to be involved with. So,
could it also be something promoted in our first selectmen's
sure,
newsletter
absolutely.
every other week?
Yes, all the above.
Yeah.
And this was very well attended in previous years, like hundreds of kids.
Hundreds.
I think parents.
I remember, I attended the one in 2018. There were a couple dozen, I don't remember.
Really?
But I was only there for an hour and a half.
I could be mistaken,
Yeah,
but I remember it being, I thought was well attended.
All right, cool.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so we'll continue to keep us posted, and I'll forward you that email, because the library has a great e-news distribution too.
Right.
So if they're partnered and can help cross-promote, that would be wonderful.
More is barrier.
Awesome. Santina, I think I am going to try to keep us on time, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes.
Okay, so we are in year 3 of our grant cycle. This is the 3rd and final year. We have $15,295 to spend. What we talked about last year before we decided on the Lincoln Park project was the Birdcraft area. And Bill, I don't know if you remember, you said let's hold off for a year because they were still doing construction. So I don't know if that's still what we were thinking as the group. But we have $1,600 of that $15,000 going still towards the Lincoln Park area. There's a fencing that they want to redo or install that's going to take.
Well, we got to take the fence out in order to put the sidewalk in.
Yeah, so we have funds to do that. So we have $13,695 left. Again, that fiscal year is until September 30th of this year. And as far as additional funding, I did talk to the state. We may have additional funding if we have a project that's ready to go. He said preferably something that would be a one-time, I'm so sorry. Preferably something that would be like a one-time purchase. I don't know how much money, he didn't know how much money was left, but I know Sarah, before I went out on leave, you said that you did have a project idea.
I didn't know if anything with Judy Proctor's initiative for Pequot Avenue would be applicable.
Yeah, that, I don't know.
Yeah, and having a ballpark sense of the money might help.
Okay.
So,
I'll reach back out to him and see. The thing is, and I was telling Steve, is depending, so, the fiscal year goes until September 30th.
Yeah.
Depending on how we received additional funds, we as the department may have to go through all 3 boards to assess the money. So it's not like, hey, we're going to give you, $10,000. Okay, great, and that's it. We'd have to go through. So depending on the project, we may not have enough time to go through all of the boards, all of the approvals. But again, I don't know. It depends. That's why he said maybe a one-time purchase instead of an amendment and things like that. However, with that being said, if there is a project as we go into the next cycle, and I can talk to him really early on, that gives us enough time to get additional funds.
Okay.
So I don't know if you and I want to connect about that project or bill or something like that, and then we can kind of go back and forth.
Oh, the Pequot Avenue project?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about
And probably should have Judy and her group be a part of that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's meet and have a quick discussion about that. And then the only other thing I wanted to talk about was, we have the bike share bikes that are still kind of hanging out in our closet. And originally, the health department and the group kind of talked about giving them to the local hotels. The state does not like that idea. So, whatever. So the things that he did like that we talked about was maybe for town employees to use between our buildings. I don't know how the town would feel about that. He wants me to see if the universities would want them, but I do know that I think Sacred Heart already has a bike share program. Maybe Circle View, I think one of them already has an internal. So anyways, I did ask him if we can give the bikes away, and he said he would be open to giving a few away, not all 10 bikes. So we do have 10 bikes and 20 helmets. And he wanted me to connect with PD, which I will email, Evan, and see if, give him out to like the high schools or something, which again, I don't know how that would go. So, does anyone have any other ideas?
Just a thought, for this bike-thon, whatever it's called, have, anybody that's 10 gets a ticket, you draw it, and you get a free bike, you have a shot. I mean, that certainly draws people in.
They are adult bikes, but they're adult-sized bikes.
Okay.
However, the thing I did say to him was, our bike share program was actually really successful, because what we found is kids have bikes their parents don't. So the parents were renting bikes to go on family bike trips. So again, I think that's a great time to maybe auction some away. But again, for some reason, he's really adamant that all 10 don't go away. However, if I say maybe with the bike rodeo, maybe he'll be a little bit more inclined. So I will ask him about that and see.
The other thing I was going to say was that if you brought them to the bike rodeo, just, like you were saying, the kids can ride their bikes around or do whatever, but the parents can kind of ride with them or whatever, and you kind of, and I think it was really a risk management and insurance thing, liability that everybody was afraid of. So I don't know if that solves it, but if you had 3 events a year where you bring out the bikes and do whatever, at least they're being used,
Yeah. So I'll go back, and I still have to talk to Stan about this and see if he had any more ideas, but, so, the other thing I have to mention is part of that $13,000, we have to get these bikes, refixed. Like, they need air in them, they need to get, tuned up and things like that, so, we're gonna connect with, who's in the Vilio?
Oh,
Villa
yes.
Fix.
Velofix, yeah.
And see if they can come do that, so that, some of that might be out.
Are they all the same, or are there some men's and some women's?
No, they're all the
All
same.
the same.
Mm-hmm. They're gorgeous bikes.
Yeah.
He actually, the state wanted to give them to another community, and so I fought really hard to figure out a way to keep them in service. They all say circles on it, and there are funds, and I think we should keep them here. So we just kind of have to agree on something.
So Santina, the $13,000, I heard fencing, I also heard bikes there, but what else can the money be used for?
So we had wrote the grant for pedestrian safety, or pedestrian improvement.
Got it.
So last year, we had talked, I think Karen brought up the idea of the birdcraft?
Birdcraft, yeah.
Birdcraft area.
Unqua. Isn't that Unqua?
Yeah, Uncle Road.
Unqua Road, yeah.
Because it's near the,
Tomlinson?
Ludlow, Tomlinson.
There is a sidewalk on the one side of the road, but not the other, so.
And that's what the state really likes, is connecting to the schools, connecting to the parks and things like that. So, he liked that idea, and he liked the Lincoln Park, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Santina. All right. We're going to move on. Our next update is from Alyssa Israel, who's on the phone, and she's going to be talking to us something that came up at the beginning of January with regards, we're talking about the intersection in front of the main branch of the library where Post Road Route 1, Old Post Road, and Umpqua come together at the community theater.
Right.
And Alyssa is going to update us about what's going on there, and she also has a request. All right, Alyssa, take it away.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks for having me. So I can't really hear the whole group too well, but I can hear Sarah. But real quickly, you probably received Sarah's email several weeks ago explaining what I was doing. But I initiated a process that I hope the Bike Walk Committee will take over. And I was just able to respond more quickly because I'm a private citizen, and you would have anyway. It's more difficult for a committee to respond quickly. So I threw together an application that went before the police commission, asking for lots of improvements to that intersection. Anyway, there's a whole host of things: the pedestrian signals, the sidewalks, extending the curbs. And because if you look at that intersection, I'm sorry, there's no visual I can show you, but it's like a highway entrance ramp as you're turning the corner off the Post Road, and a very I guess the biggest problem in my eyes are the pedestrian signals, the lack thereof. There are only 2 pedestrian signals to cross the post road, but if you want to cross the minor streets, which are Uncler Road and the old post road by the library, there's no pedestrian signal, and the pedestrian distance to get across is like 75 feet. Anyway, that intersection has been very dangerous for a long time. I wanted to do something about it, but I didn't realize a private citizen can make a request for a state road. So I've just been complaining about it and not realizing I could have initiated this whole thing a long time ago. Anyway, I finally did it. I went before the police commission a couple weeks ago. I got 18 people to write in, including our chair, Sarah Roy, and the police commission completely agreed that it was a dangerous intersection, and what they do is they just pass it over to DOT, so they're like the first stop to vet out any frivolous complaints, and obviously this was not a frivolous one. They all agreed, and the police chief also was very kind to offer to write a letter to give the application a more urgency, I guess is the word, because I learned at that meeting something I did not know, which is very important, that other people had made requests to improve this intersection. And I don't know how many, it sounded like 2 or 3 others, and they were nixed, basically, by DOT in the past. So I think they did one thing, from what I understand. They put up a no turn on red sign as you're coming down Uncwa and you're going to take a right onto the post road. There is a no turn on red. And I think that was just like the only thing they did. Anyway, if I can now turn this over to the Bike Walk Committee to follow it through, because you meet with Bill on a regular basis, Bill Hurley, and you guys are the local activist group, and so anyway, I'm done talking, and I'll let you guys let me know what you think, if I can hear you, hopefully.
Sure. Thank you so much, Alyssa. I know I'm just like loud to begin with, but if everybody could make sure they try to speak loudly. Yeah, so as Alyssa explained, this is a project that's already in process, and what she's embarking on some other initiatives for our town, and so she doesn't have the bandwidth right now to continue forward, but she's hoping that we could, as a committee, sort of taking on ensuring that this continues along in process in our communication with Bill. So does anybody have any questions or comments for Alyssa or the group?
What specifically is being recommended here?
What specifically is being recommended is, Alyssa, correct me if I'm wrong, some of the sidewalk ramps down into the street are not ADA compliant. Some of the traffic lights, some of the crossings, the pedestrian crossings, do not have pedestrian lights, and so it's confusing who gets right of way. Some of the other lights, they're not the typical, like, the white man in the hand. They're what are those called, Bill? I always forget the other.
They look like regular signals, really. They're green side street something or other.
They look like vehicular signals, and so they're very confusing. The state's actually doing a whole study about those because they realize how problematic they are and that they need to probably get rid of them. And then, Alyssa, what were the other things I'm missing off the top of my head?
Well, I just, as a layperson, came up with some ideas, and Mega was kind enough to draw curb extensions because the crossing radius is so long. It's 75 feet, which is really a really long way to cross, and the cars have but that's a very expensive change, and I don't know if it can ever happen. I mean, I just put pie in the sky ideas. From what I understand from Bill and Mega, DOT has to do a study, and they really have to look at this, and it's probably going to be like years. I don't know, Bill, is this like 5-year process, or how do you see this playing out?
It's at least 2 years, most likely, because it's going to take them 3 years to do an RRFB, I think, which is just basically warning lights for pedestrians to cross. But there is a couple things to know. When we did the road safety audit for Stratfield Road, two of the people from the DOT traffic were mentioning that, and Sarah alluded to it a little bit, they're looking at, there'll be a 2-phase program of one, trying to improve what they called shovel-ready or easy intersections, where to convert those pedestrian signals with the side street greens, they call them, to the more modern pedestrian indicators, maybe even with countdown signals, with the 15, 14, 13, things like that. Then the ones that were a lot harder, they would do a second phase, which would be a couple more years afterwards. One good thing is the state is kind of, I have some notes from 2005 and 2009 that Route 1 was the bypass for when the turnpike backed up. They wanted Route 1 traffic to go through, and they're kind of at least changing their tune on that.
Good.
As you know, they're trying to, I don't know if they'll achieve it or not, but they want to certainly set the goal of either Vision Zero or more pedestrian-friendly amenities. And so that letter that the town will write, I think the chief was going to write it, he said he would let me look over it if I wanted to add something to it, and that would be really to have the DOT study the intersection, and we will just say recommended some improvements. We're not going to tell them what to do because they don't like that, but at least at least maybe investigate. And one of the things, exclusive PED signal, where that might. I know they're trying to get away from that, but if we can't have that, then even the lead pedestrian interval, which gives the pedestrian a 4 to 7 second head start before the traffic, which is better than right now. They see a green, so does the car. And so at least even if they do the lead pedestrian interval, that would be a significant improvement to what's there now. And so that's what we'll request, some of the realigning and all that. And they worry about drainage, they worry about liability, they worry about a lot of things. But we might be able to do maybe some pavement markings or something like that to at least highlight or give the illusion of, you don't want to drive over this area. And then if it works, or if we do get some more grant money, then maybe we can look for some more permanent solutions. One of the things that, because it's a state highway, give you an example, the town can do a concrete curb called extruded curbing, where we put it right on top of the pavement for $8 a foot. And yet, when you dig for the state, it's got to be 16 inches down or 14 inches down, 6 inches up. You have to you have to take out all the pavement and the concrete because there's concrete underneath it. It ends up being, I think, $75 to $80 a foot, so almost 10 times the cost. So if we want to narrow the road a foot or two, I'm not sure if it's worth it, but who's to say that we can't paint something there or cross-hatch a line or something like that? There are some things that they have approved in the past, and that's where some of our research will help, where if we could identify things, especially in Connecticut, that they've approved already, that would go a long way, and then we could try at least New England area. I don't know how DOT reacts when it's Washington State or Arizona or another country, but if we can get examples from New England or particularly Connecticut, it goes a long way. So
I'll just
that's what
say
we're looking at.
I think that location, this is Scott, that location I think is probably one of the most highly trafficked as in pedestrian traffic in town. You've got Sherman Green, you've got, Old Post Tavern, you've got the new movie theater.
In the library.
Right, and the library, you get 16 Candles where all the kids go, and you got a couple of restaurants and bars up the road. I come down that road, coming from over the train station, and then, stoplights right there, I can see people walking all the time right there. So I think that's a good location to think about to improve.
Thank you. All right, we need to...
Just a personal experience on that too, going from parking in the bank, let's say, going to Old Post, for example.
Yep.
I always walk up Umpqua 20 or 30 feet and then cross over. I know I'm going against the crosswalk, but I feel like I have a better visibility of cars turning and stuff like that. And to me, it's safer. It's probably wrong, but it's safer, in my opinion, so. And I know you can't put a crosswalk in the middle of the street, I don't think, but that, mentally, that's a very challenging intersection there. If you're not paying attention.
And it's skewed too.
Scott from the library actually told me that his staff shared with him that rather than, they park behind Sherman Green, the municipal lot, rather than cross at Old Post Road and Post Road, they don't feel safe in that crosswalk. They cross mid-block from behind the library because they just don't feel safe.
That's the same idea when I'm.
Yeah, exactly. They feel safer.
I walk there every other day.
Do you?
Yeah.
So we need to wrap this up. Basically what we need to decide now is, do we just want to be the point people for this to make sure that it continues along in the process? It seems like it aligns with our mission.
Personally,
absolutely.
Just from experience, I can't think of another intersection in town that I use that is, I consider more dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great.
Well, as an example, I'll just interrupt real quick. As an example of, again, if the chief sends out the letter before, he doesn't have me look at it or whatever, but I'll try to email him and just say, again, that the bike and ped, we didn't do a formal vote, but if you wanted to, you can, that supports that application. Little things like that sometimes catches the eye, that this is not just one person or one, pedestrian or whatever, that it has some backing, and sometimes they'll take it a lot more serious, so.
Do we want to do a vote? Do we want to do a vote to make it official? I'm trying to think of what language we would use. I mean, we're just taking on being.
I would say to support. I'll make a motion to support the plan submitted by Elisa. Sorry, I don't remember her last name.
Israel.
Israel, and to continue pursuing the objective of making that four-way intersection safer.
Yeah. Second.
Awesome. Nate seconds. That was Steve that made the motion, and Nate second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Aye. Mike, did you abstain?
I'm actually opposed.
You're opposed?
I'm curious about pouring money into an intersection. I walk, like I said, every other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I never have a problem with it, but I mean, but symbolic.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Give it a second thought before we start pouring a ton of money into it.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I think in these experiences, I find in these situations to look at it from others' experiences, like perhaps more vulnerable road users. You're a tall individual. I'm thinking like folks in a wheelchair or little children, a mother with a stroller might have a very different experience.
Good point.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind. All right. So we have voted, Alyssa, to carry forward with your work. Thank you so much.
And thank you. That's awesome. And it'll really help to have the committee's support behind that letter that from the chief and from Bill that'll be going to DOT. So thank you, everybody, and I'll let you get on with your meeting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Mary Hogue, are you on the call? No. Okay. So, Bill, we are a little behind. If we can try our best to stick with 5 minutes, keep it brief.
I'll even be briefer than that.
Great.
A lot of the things that we've talked about already.
Okay.
So basically, we're always looking for grants. I was working with Mark. As a matter of fact, today we just had, or yesterday we mentioned, some possibilities of sidewalk improvements in the areas that he was talking about. And we're trying to prod our consultants to, finish the designs on a lot of those projects that he had mentioned before. And we're moving slowly. I thought the person, Patrick, was going to send me some information regarding our road safety audit. He hasn't.
Okay.
We have at least a skeleton of it, and we'll be working on it. But we're swamped, so it's going to probably take a little bit longer than what we thought. But
okay.
Again, having the state involvement, I think, is important. And when they, it does go a long way. And even with the support letter and all that, or going for grants, that's where the bike and pedestrian committee can really, make a difference, because anything competitive grants, they have support. As I said, not just one or two people. and, or if you wanna, propose something, you know, the state does take notice, and it's the same thing when we have a public meeting. If you have 3 people show up, or you have 30 people show up, they know how, you know, when you get a lot of people, they know how important the project is, so, that's all.
Oh, thank you so much. I have one quick question for you. Is there, I know you said you were putting in a work order for the fence for Lincoln Park. Is there a date for when that's gonna be replaced?
I have to talk to Public Works on that.
And actually, I looked, and I didn't see anything yet.
You didn't see anything yet? Okay, good to know. People are asking in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
so I wanted to, if I had an answer, give it to them. All right, so Mary is not on the call. She never RSVP'd, so we're gonna skip, Sustainable Task Force and Forestry and move into committee updates. And Mike, I know you have a hard stop at 7:15, so, Steve, before we do financials, I meant to do this at the beginning. Karen's doing our minutes for tonight. She's gonna use the recording. But we have to pick somebody for next month. And if it's Karen, we're gonna pick again. We're not gonna make somebody do it 2 months in a row. But, Scott, would you do the honors? See who it is.
Drum roll, please.
Don't pick me.
Mike.
Mike, all right. That's your penalty for leaving early, I guess.
They all say Mike.
They all say Mike.
I called it Mike.
All right, so we've got Mike doing the minutes for March, get that out of the way. And Steve, could you please provide us with a financial
This is
update?
gonna be very brief, but,
Great.
okay, so when I took over, the balance was $615.45. We've had 2 transactions since then. There was a payment, to Sarah for, supplies. I didn't put exactly what it was, but I think it was copies or signage.
It was programs for the World Day of Remembrance, yeah.
For $73, and we had a donation last month, from a resident, that Sarah, mentioned at the meeting of $100. So since I've been here, I'm very proud to say I've increased our balance by about $27. And, you know, certainly, you know, there's not a lot of activity here, not a lot of donations. You know, there's a couple in 15, 16, 17, one in 18, one in 19. And, you know, I think as a group, you know, we have to think about, or we should think about ways to solicit donations. And, you know, there are opportunities for that, and we don't have to go crazy with it. You know, you don't want to shoot out 20 different things, but maybe some type of, you know, project or something. It could be a sale of something even. You know, I was very big on, you know, reflected items and stuff like that, where maybe a portion of that goes to the committee, whatever. But it'd be nice to get more money in there because, you know, it's in essence our money, and we don't have to. When I was speaking to Santina today, you know, I mean, getting money allocated to the committee is a heck of a lot harder than spending your own money. So, and certainly $600 doesn't go a long way by any means, so.
Well, Steve, I think we talked prior to you joining the committee about if we were to have events in the future looking for, or activities or project sponsors from perhaps, you know, some of the local bike stores. Scott mentioned he has some connections. Velofix that you mentioned, I know they're in town, could be potential places to go ask. So, great. Does anybody have any comments about that or questions? Nope, okay. So I'm going to mix things up here just a little bit. So at the end of the committee updates, I had a committee discussion about 2022 goals. And I've thought a lot about like how to best go about that. And so while Mike is still here, I'm going to pass this out. What I'd like to do, I think, I've talked to folks in other committees and commissions in town, and I know this group in the past has done it this way, is having like working groups or subcommittee structure to try to get things accomplished between meetings. So this I'm going to email to those folks who, Tom on the phone and the other folks who weren't able to attend tonight. If you could please put your name and rank your preference of groups. We'll put together some groups that will, you know, meet briefly, thank you, in between meetings and come up with what you'd like to do for the upcoming year. You know, think big but realistic is what I'll say, and I'll of course be a part of at least one or maybe two of the groups, and when we get a new member, we'll add them to a group as well. I'm hoping to have 3 people in a group.
Do we have any member needs right now, or are we at capacity?
We need one more.
Okay.
Yeah, because Bruce stepped down, and Jennifer, thank you, told me that because the Board of Select people are in the middle of their budget season, they won't be able to meet to make a decision about a new committee member until March. So sometime later in March. So we're going to be a committee of 8 for a while. But yeah, so, you know, I tried to come up with some categories that align events and education. You know, we're talking about the bike rodeo. I know Steve's very passionate about safety awareness, and Scott put together that great document of safety tips. Infrastructure and road design seems pretty obvious. Relationship building and policy, I'll talk, well, I guess it's my chair update now. There's a lot of interesting things going on at the state and national level that are going to impact us both in terms of potential money and mandates on how to look at these issues. So, and relationship building, you know, we've talked about networking with people. We brought Mark here tonight. Last month we had Jonathan Goodison from the Fairfield Public Schools. There's other folks in other towns doing similar work as to ours that we can network with, Bike Walk Connecticut, lots of groups that we can reach out to learn from and share experiences with. So I will be putting this together after I get everybody's choices. I'll put the groups together, and I'll let you all know next week how it shakes out. So wanted to get that done before Mike had to leave. So very quick update. I'm going to time myself as well because I know we're running out of time. So I mentioned that we had over 50 responses to that survey that we put out. We do need to, at some point, evaluate that information with some of the decision makers in town, Bill, Bob Calamaris, Health Department, whoever, zoning, Mark, whoever needs to be brought to the table to look at this, like where are there potential places that we could make a difference, make some improvements. I would encourage you, if you haven't, I haven't even myself combed through it thoroughly, but there's some great information in there, people sharing their experiences, trying to get around town. And I'll share it with you, Santino.
That'd be great.
And this, like I said, it would be interesting to see where that could align with projects. Some other things that I've been up to, I attended virtually this afternoon, there was a Vision Zero and National Road to Safety webinar talking about the infrastructure bill. I don't know if you've all had a chance to read the National Roadway Safety Strategy. Has anybody read it? I totally encourage it. It's not a snooze fest. It's not going to put you to sleep. I read it in 90 minutes, and I am not a fast reader. It's got a lot of graphs. Bill, did you read it yet?
I only have glanced at it. I have not. That 90 minutes
Super fun.
That 90 minutes is hard.
I took a Saturday morning and was like, I'm just going to get through this. But a lot of really good information there, and this webinar this afternoon was about like how do we apply this to actually getting some stuff done. Super helpful. I took some notes. Where did they go?
I did look at how to obtain grant money from that IIJA.
Yes.
That was about 2 hours, yeah.
So there's actually going to be, I'll talk about that because that's always the sexy part. There's going to be $6 billion with a B dollars in safe streets and roads for all grant money for the entire nation. And what's interesting about this, did you attend the capital plan meeting?
We had our grant person do that.
Oh, okay, great. So this is not going to go through the state. This is going to be directly to local governments. The state will assist, provide guidance in applying, but it's not going to be distributed through the state. So, I mean, it will be competitive, but $6 billion, that's amazing. I mean, we could use $100 billion, but it's a great opportunity. There's also going to be $100 billion in competitive grants that will go through the state. And they talked about that last night at their capital plan. They're waiting for more detailed instruction from the federal government about how that's going to be used. But Bill mentioned Vision Zero Pete Buttigieg did say, you know, that is the target goal, is 0 fatalities on our roads, and put together this road race strategy, which I encourage you. I think there's a summary too. I can send you the summary to take a look at as to how we're going to get there. And the safe systems approach to road design has now been nationally endorsed by the federal government, which takes it a step further than complete streets. It's not just like we give everyone a share of the road. It's also acknowledging that we're all human, we're all fallible, human beings make mistakes, but we can design the roads to make sure that those mistakes are not fatal. And so it's putting the responsibility, yes, individuals have responsibility, but those of us, the systems that design the roads and the transportation, have a responsibility to try to put safeguards in place. It's really cool. Did anyone get a chance to listen to the Bike Walk Connecticut meeting last week? I was traveling, I couldn't. They are doing some cool, they have some cool policy goals in terms of looking to try to improve systems and relationships with DOT. Bill's mentioned, you know, how complex those relationships can be and how there's perceived impediments for getting stuff done sometimes with the DOT. And I know they're working on their end, and, you know, what can we do better collectively to improve the process of trying to work with them to make our streets safer. I mentioned I met with the director of the public library, Scott. He's a super huge advocate for bike and pedestrian safety. He actually did a lot of bike and pedestrian safety work when he worked in Albany. I think he was there 14 years. He was there a long time. I mentioned he wants to potentially partner with the Scouts with the bike rodeo. And he did, when he was at Albany, he did a cool program, and I thought of you, Scott, because you mentioned biking our bike routes. They did something called Bike the Branches, where they would bike from branch to branch of the library, and I thought that's a potential event or activity that we could be involved with them. And I'm meeting next week with Mary Coe from the library to talk about doing I don't know if you've ever noticed they do, sometimes they do programs where they have a theme around books or activities, and they're interested in doing one about bike safety. And I'm hoping pedestrian safety too. I'm going to plug that because that's equally important. So we're making friends.
Good.
It's exciting. And finally, 2 quick things I think I'm going over. Just before I went away on vacation, Bill, Mega Jane, and I met with Megan Sloan from the Metropolitan Council of Governments. And I had some questions for her about how the Council of Governments works and how we might be able to work together. And she's actually going to come and be a guest speaker at our meeting in May so that we can all, because I kind of know how it works now, but I don't dare explain it and get it wrong. And also, you know, this conversation started because I was looking at exploring, you know, trying to do some pilot bike lane programs for our community. Like Mark mentioned, just a pilot scooter program. Can we do tryout bike lanes? We're getting some for the Grasmere project, but can we try them out in other locations throughout town? I was thinking of Fairfield Woods Road, but I'm open to other ideas. And so that's how I started talking to Megan and learned more that doesn't align with MetroCog really and what they do, but there are potential ways we can work together. So she's going to come talk to us about that in May. And finally, Emmeline Harrigan from Planning and Zoning is going to be our speaker for March, so we can learn more about how what they do aligns with what we do. And I was wondering if anybody had any ideas for April. We've got March and May, but if there's anyone, a department or an organization that you'd love.
I like the idea. I think I heard from you, Sarah, about other towns.
Yeah.
Committee leads like yourself. Mm-hmm. So the Sarah Roys of other towns nearby, because you and I had that conversation with my brother in Norwalk, right? Yeah. And we can benchmark. I mean, because we're all kind of doing little fiefdoms. Yeah. Doing things maybe, you know, independently. So why not benchmark off of the successes of other groups? Sure. Yeah. I do know Tanner from the Norwalk Bike and Ped Committee. Right, okay. I could see if he could come. Sure. Mike, thank you so much. Thanks, Mike. Drive safe.
I'm gonna leave as well.
You're gonna leave too?
Yeah, I got
Oh, before you leave,
need you
Steve
for
wanted.
1 minute.
Yeah,
1 minute.
Steve needs you for 1 minute. And I'm done with my report, and so we'll do, Steve and then Nate. So go ahead,
Okay.
Steve.
Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, I think one of the things that this group does inherently is observe things, okay? And I observe just how bad the crosswalks are in especially the area where I live, but certainly around town, schools, et cetera, meaning that, the paint's worn out, there's epoxy that's chipped, and my point would be that crosswalks have no value if you can't see them, okay? So, Bill, I'm guessing you've seen this stuff, but I work for the town of Reading, and this is a product by 3M. It's adhesive backed, okay? And it's, I'm going to give this to you if you haven't seen it.
Okay. I have to a certain extent.
Okay, so anyhow, Reading has probably 1% of the crosswalks that Fairfield has, and that material is relatively expensive, okay? It's about $350 a 30-yard roll, which is about one crosswalk, okay? However, having said that, though, I don't know what it costs for epoxy paint, which is expensive, the labor, the striping, the painting, stopping traffic so you don't drag the paint onto the asphalt, let it dry type of thing. And it's very, from what our public works guy said, they've had, if you put it down properly, they have had zero damage from plows, which is a big.
That would have been one of the concerns.
Which is the big
Is that
thing.
Jeff Hansen by any chance?
Jeff retired.
Oh, he did retire.
Yeah, Jeff retired December 31st.
Oh, all right.
It's very reflective, it's safe to walk on too, it's got nubs on it and stuff.
It was $350, what
From Uline, I think it was $350, $360, something like that, and also from Eastern Sign, I don't know if you buy stuff from them up in Bethel, okay?
Yep.
$350 for how many feet?
30 yards, 90
30
feet.
yards.
So I measured the one on Reef Road and, the road to the dump there, okay, so I walked my dog and I was crossing it and I took a tape out and that was, 13 panels, 8 foot wide by 12 inches, which are all 12 inches. But then I saw other ones that were like 9 by 11. So I think the total coverage, one roll will cover most crosswalks. And I'm not sure if there's a requirement between spacing, okay, in which case you could fit them better type of thing. But my recommendation would be to try it in a few areas. I'll give you another good example, Penfield Pavilion, okay? That is one of the most heavily crossed roads on both sides during the beach season. And if you look at and those are relatively newly painted, they're worn out. They're worn out. And, again, I think the more visibility you can have, that's the value of them. If you can't see them, to me, they have no value. It's a way. And I don't know if the town has any type of, routine maintenance on these things where they repaint them or whatever. But anyhow, the point being, Bill, yeah, I think it might be a good investment to try it in a couple of places. I don't know if there's money in the budget for it or maybe they can put some money in, but.
Santina, would your grant?
Well, that's what I talked to her about.
Oh, okay.
I talked to her about that today.
And one of the things I said to Steve is if we were, let's say, Birdcraft area, that's the spot we're doing, and there's a sidewalk or a crosswalk, I'm sure we can absolutely
Yeah, that could be an add-on to a couple of current projects, so that would be a good start.
Okay.
But I'd also like to, try some other spots.
Yeah.
It does say, on the 3M specs, which here, I can give you.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. It's really not meant for high traffic areas, okay? So to me, high traffic would be the Uncle thing. But there's relatively few of those in towns that are extremely high traffic. I'm thinking in front of schools. I mean, that's where you really want to have, the best, visibility and safety related. So all I'm requesting is that, somebody looks at the crosswalk maintenance, preventive maintenance policy, and when you drive around, pay attention. You'll see that they're in pretty poor shape. So, if they have to paint them, they have to repaint them, that's fine too, okay? But there should be something to make them more visible. Otherwise, like I said, to me, they have no value.
Relentless maintenance is important. Hard to achieve, but it's important.
Well, now from a couple of years ago when we did the bike route, we had noticed that to paint, and this is a good couple of years ago prices, it was like 31 cents. The epoxy was 37. The paint doesn't, the one on, Barlow Road's already faded. It only lasts a year, the paint.
Right.
The epoxy can last, sometimes 7, 8 years. So
But it
for that
chips.
7 or 8 cents difference,
The
it's
problem is it
fantastic.
chips though. See, the paint, the plow won't scratch it. The epoxy gets chipped with the plows. And again, my understanding from our guys is plows, if you lay it down right, there's a roller you can buy that weighs like 200 pounds and you just cut it out and roll it and it's done, you can drive on.
Well, that's what they're gonna wanna do, because that's the first thing they're gonna say, the plow will rip this right up,
Yep.
so that's why.
But again, you try it. I mean,
Right.
It's like, experience might be different in different towns and all that stuff.
And,
I can only
so
go by what I
we'll
was
price
told.
it out, and certainly if it's less than the epoxy, it might be worth,
Well, you have to
working
factor in the labor and how often you have to do it too. I
Yep.
think to really do a good analysis.
Steve,
so.
do you
They
have
know
any,
how
like,
long it's last.
even anecdotal information about, like, people saying, I can see it better when I drive, or I feel safer walking across this because it's
Just me.
more visible? Just you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I gotta be honest, just me. I mean, when I drive down Fairfield Beach Road, especially where there's areas where there aren't streetlights, your headlights and the paint's worn out, you really can't even see them. And again,
Yeah, I didn't know with, like,
they're not as
specifically to the
valuable-
Ridgefield
Crosswalks aren't as valuable
Yeah.
at night, obviously, during the day.
Now, if you
But
look,
but even
there's like
during the day-
almost like little glass beads or something on here, which will give it more reflective.
Well, and traction too.
Yep.
It gives traction to the pedestrian,
Mhm.
okay? And,
Yeah, no, I'll
So
definitely bring
I
it
just
to
think
our
it's- I just
attention,
think
yep.
Thank you.
that's why I brought it up, just
And
to
if it's part of a grant or whatever, then.
Yeah, if we can get money for it too, that's obviously
That'd be
the
great.
best,
Yep.
best situation you can have, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Bill, for staying.
All right,
7:30 meeting.
Oh, thank you so much. We will. All right.
Bye now.
Nate, you've been so patient, last but certainly not least. So let us have an update on the Greenfield bike route.
So actually, I don't have a ton of it because Karen was working on the application
Oh,
to
okay.
go to the police, to submit. She has the documentation and she got some clarification from me last week on the route itself,
Yep,
but, I don't know where it stands from here, so.
okay.
That is my update.
Okay, so for March, we'll, hopefully Karen will be here.
Right.
And we'll have a
We'll
firm
work on
update.
it between now
You
and then
working?
to see if we can finalize the letter, the application letter, and see what we need to do to get in front of people to talk about the next steps.
Great. Tom, you've been awfully quiet. Do you have anything you'd like to share before we wrap up? Tom?
You already wrapped up.
Tom, are you there? Hello? Okay. Tom?
He's trying.
You might be trying.
Can you hear me?
There we go.
Now we can hear you.
Oh, okay, no, I'm just sucking it all up like a sponge.
Oh,
Making
okay,
lots
great.
of notes.
Oh, excellent. All right, well, that's all I have. Are there any members of the public on the call? No. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to share before we wrap up? Steve?
A comment.
Comment.
Okay, so when I, wanted to get on this committee, I went on the website and I downloaded a document. It was the objectives of the committee. And Sarah and I had a conversation about it. And one thing that was really obvious to me was the word safety did not appear in the objectives, this one-page objective. I think you immediately took it down.
It was from 2015,
Yeah,
too.
right,
Yeah, it was,
right.
yeah.
But I'm wondering, in my opinion, every decision we make, maybe 95%, maybe not everyone, somehow has to do with safety, whether it's, a person or a bicycle or whatever. I think that if there's a way, it's a minor thing, but I'm wondering, is there a way we could change the name to the Fairfield Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee? Because it really, to have the word safety in there, to me, is what we're all about.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I'm all about. That's why I'm here. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
That's why I joined. I care about safety.
Mm-hmm.
And to not have it in the title, whereas everything affects it, I'd just like to see if that's something we could do, or maybe if you don't want to do it, then there's a reason why it was done this way. But I think to have the word safety in there would be a nice add-on. It makes the name longer, but other than that, unless there's already, the only thing I would say, if there's already like a safety committee in town, that may be a problem. But if there's not a committee that has the word safety in it, I would propose that we see if we can, or investigate if we could add the word safety at the end of it, because that's, to me, what it's all about. And it's not even in our title.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think that's a fair question for Jennifer Carpenter. Would you be interested in emailing her?
I don't even know who she is.
She works in the First Select Woman's office, and she sort of oversees all the committees and commissions in terms of like these types of questions. And I can give you her contact information.
And I could write a short description of why I think it's valuable.
Because I don't know what the rules are around changing our names.
The only thing I would say that it could be, safety is in the eye of the beholder. And it's, you might think that riding your bicycle 30 miles an hour down Burr Street is unsafe, but Scott and I do it all the time. So, so when you get into these, these words that are well-meaning, well-intended, but potentially can be divisive or alienate people, obviously we all know that, stopping at red lights, that's part of what makes, the rules that we all follow. I do get a little concerned about, overcomplicating our mission, our task, and I do worry a little bit about nebulous terms. And safety, it's I know it when I see it, it's the Justice Potter situation where, but people might think that riding a bicycle on certain roads is unsafe. And then, do we want to then prohibit people from doing that if some people think it's unsafe? We start going down, I think, the idea of a little bit of a slippery slope. That's my 2 cents.
Again, I'm not passionate about it. If it doesn't happen, I'm not going to quit the committee.
No,
but I just feel that it belongs in the name because, it's a very generic name. I don't see it as being specific in any way. And again, I feel like just a couple of meetings I've said and everything we talk about has to do with safety. So why not have people, when they see it, this is a statement from the Fairfield Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee.
Yeah, maybe I like the idea, Steve. Maybe it is a discussion per, Sarah, your comment with Jennifer to see what the process would be. And if there is a process, maybe it might come back to the committee for further discussion, so we can have a more, full discussion and figure out the pros and cons and maybe take a vote.
And one other thing, I believe they're rewriting the ordinances, and that would be the opportune time, I think, to change the name of the committee, because they're reviewing all the town ordinances.
Well, I think at the very least, it might make sense for us to review our mission statement.
Do we have a mission statement?
I think we do.
I was looking for that kind of stuff the other day and couldn't find it.
If we don't have a mission statement, I think we should develop a mission statement.
Yep.
And I think we should absolutely include safety as the first bullet point in a mission statement. So even short of changing the name, we've worked hard to develop a logo and that sort of thing, and I would hate to sort of throw some of the baby out with the bathwater. But I'm not married to it. My only thought would be that it might make sense to again, if we don't have one, develop a mission statement, and if we do modify it so that safety is one of the first things, or the first thing that is discussed, because I think you're right, it's why we're here.
Yeah.
We want to make Fairfield a safer place for all road users. And so that right there says safety, right? So.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I was going to say that, Nate, as well. Like, if we are not allowed to change the name, or we can't come to a consensus around changing the name, is there an opportunity in a mission statement, tagline, vision statement, whatever, to clearly communicate that our mission is making the road safe for all users?
Yep.
So
that certainly would be something that would be, just as good, or should be part of it, or both should be part of it. One or the other, or both.
And the fact that we had, 50 responses, to your point, of
53 so far.
53, okay.
And that doesn't count all the comments on health
ways
department,
to improve the safety of our town, supports your comment, and I think just kind of picking up on that and asking for other comments for the group here. When I saw we had 50 responses, that tells me there's an expectation that we as a committee can be of value to those constituents in our town. So I think we should try to figure out some way to really address that, because I don't think, we get 50 people asking for bike roads, although a number of people are.
Yeah.
But safety in those areas is crucially important.
And again, I think without getting too far off topic, it does necessitate, we do have a Department of Public Safety, which is our police department, and I was just rolling through these, with the last little bit, and a significant number of these are, again, interactions between pedestrians and or cyclists with automobiles traveling too fast. And so it is an epidemic in our town and in our country right now, with vehicle speed being a problem. So that is something that we, as a board, we can shake our fist at the sky, but we can't do anything about it. But we can certainly ask our colleagues to continue to push that as an important way for us to address these issues.
And I think the indirect way that we work through it is, looking for opportunities to partner with folks like Bill and Mark, Emmeline, whoever, to where there are opportunities for us to make the road design more conducive to traffic calming, to slowing the cars, to making it so that pedestrian and cycling activities are more, prominent, respected by those folks when they're in their cars. So I think there are ways we can indirectly. I wish we had like a pot of money that we could decide from, but we can certainly push.
Every meeting, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's interesting though. I read through those comments too, and I didn't tag each one, but speeding was 80% of them. So that needs to be made very well published.
Because our roads are designed to make people feel comfortable going at that speed.
Speed is the biggest thing that we can do to improve safety.
Yes, it absolutely is.
So,
yeah.
It's common sense, but, it needs to be said and reinforced.
Yep. And repeated again.
All right, gentlemen. So could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion made by Steve, seconded by Scott. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Meeting has come to a close at 7:32 p.m. And our next meeting, if you want to put it in your calendar, is
Fourth Thursday, right?
It's the third Thursday. I changed it because I knew I was going to be away this month. So it's going to be on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh.
So don't hit the bar before.
Providing the beer.
Wear your green.
6 p.m. March 17th is our next meeting.
No, you really can't do that, can you?
You're not Irish, are you?
Maybe it doesn't matter.
It's supposed to be the third Thursday.
We all are, right?
Yeah.
I may be sick.